Hi guys, welcome to Beauty and the Beat. My name is Amanda Van Annen. Join me and my co-host Chandra Lynn as we take you beyond the beauty myth and get face-to-face with reality. This show covers most topics that every modern woman wants to talk about: finances, relationships, wealth, personal development, branding, and how to find purpose and discover your true authentic self. But first, as I always say, let's hit it. Hi, Chandra.
I'll never get sick of that song.
Yeah, I like it because it's really upbeat and it makes everyone so upbeat. So are we excited about our guest today or what?
Everybody's going to love her.
Oh, yeah, I know. I can't wait.
It's a great topic.
That everybody wants to talk about relationships. And so today we've got Matchmaker Maria. And I know you all know who Matchmaker Maria is, if you're as excited to have her on the show as we are. So let me tell you a bit about Matchmaker Maria. For a decade, Maria has successfully combined 4 generations of matchmaking tradition and modern relationship psychology and search techniques to ensure her professional clientele are introduced to their ultimate match. She's met over 10,000 people and helped over 4,000 first dates.
You're going to love Maria. She combines strong intuition with matchmaking methodology. She leverages each client's unique attachment style and preferred love language. Maria and Agape Match have been featured in New York Times, the Financial Times, Fast Company, CNN, Esquire, Elle, Reuters, Vice, Thrillist. Maria, welcome to Beauty and the Beat.
Thank you for having me, ladies.
Hi, Maria. How are you?
Good. Oh, now you can see like the whole background. Cool.
Yeah, we see everyone now.
So great to see what people do with their backgrounds for Zoom, because now we've been on Zoom for almost a year, right?
Oh, I feel like my background says a lot. Like I've got Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who's a feminist hero of mine.
Nice.
I've got a Eurovision mug because I'm obsessed with Eurovision, and then just a lot of different things. But it tells you a lot about me.
Your personality reflected in your background.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. You have a very interesting background. We were just talking about you being from Greece or being Greek.
Right. Yes. So I consider myself Greek American. I was born in Europe, have lived significant portions of my life in Greece, but also raised in America. So I have, I think, both legs, like 2 culture kid. And I'm also married to someone who's Greek. So just kind of keeping certain traditions alive, I suppose, with that. That was unintentional, of course, though.
Yeah. So one thing I was reading is, when I was reading your bio, one thing it said was that this is a generational thing. Have you been like matchmaking? Is this a family thing?
Yeah, it was not a family business like for me to take over. I think for a lot of Greek families, for a lot of people, there is like a matchmaking background, because people did meet through matchmakers prior to 1980, and who was a matchmaker in a community or in a village? It was always the person who was making the best coffee and was really great at keeping secrets. And one of those people in my lineage is my grandmother and her mother and her grandmother. And my mother was never professionally matchmaking. She has worked for me in the past, but I've always kind of skipped her on this. And, what I do and what my grandmother did are 2 very different things. Someone would come to her from her village or my grandfather's village and say stuff like, well, I want to marry my daughter. Who do you think? Or, she would make introductions for marriage in sometime in the next 3 months. Whereas I hope that my clients go on a second date in the next 2 weeks with pandemic dating, or I hope that someone I set up might get remarried or married in the next 3 years. So it's very different, different landscape, different cultures. My grandparents, they set up people that were of the same ethnicity, same religion. I do not have that option in the great city of New York, and very diverse. And so, you learn a lot of different ways to match people in terms of looking for, their shared values communication styles, lifestyle.
So do you just have a big database of people? How do people even join or get on that to be considered?
So you can join my database for free. It's if you just go to agapematch.com, which is my company's name and website. And you know, how do people find it? I mean, people, you know, like stuff like this, or you know, following me on social media has definitely driven a lot of people, or when we're featured in the press. But that has built a really robust database. Even though I work primarily with New Yorkers, if someone signs up from a different city or a different country, we get match requests from other services every single day. You know, in fact, this morning I had a Floridian matchmaker contact us. I had another matchmaker in London contact us who are asking, you know, hey, do you have any matches that we could look at? And so we'll send those matches out to matchmakers that we trust, that we can help find matches for their clients.
So there's a whole matchmaker network out there.
I'm actually one of the co-founders. So there is the Matchmakers Alliance. It's about 350 professional matchmaking companies strong. And the entire purpose of the Alliance as a trade association for professional matchmakers is to be a collaborative platform. So, you know, if you were to hire a matchmaker, if she's at least part of the Alliance, you can trust that hopefully she is not leaving one stone unturned. You know, she is not just limiting herself to what she can get as a matchmaker, but, you know, what have other matchmakers received over the years? So it's a really great way for matchmakers to collaborate.
Yeah, because I also noticed that your matchmaking service, unlike a lot of them, you offer a lot of services, because apart from the matchmaking, you do a dating refresh, you do the group coaching and intensive, you've got the style consultation, you've got the photo shoot. Now, is this because sometimes you get a client in, you know, like he's an executive or she's an executive, and, you know, they're so busy working, they're in their little world, and now they want to go out and start dating. And all of a sudden you're like, hey, you want to go out and start dating, but you have to present, you know, your best, you have to put your best foot forward. So maybe you need a bit of style or a bit of, you know, like just so that they get a bit more confidence.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the other programs that we have. So just to go reverse list. So, you know, styling and photo shoot, I think everyone needs to refresh their wardrobe. I think everyone needs to get great photography done every single year, because it makes us feel good, and we can update our LinkedIn profile. We can add some photos to Instagram and Facebook. So it's always great to get photos, and especially if you're online dating, you know, you have to think of, especially your first photo, you have to think of it as the cover page to the marketing plan that is you. And, you know, knowing that can really help when it comes to taking online dating photography. With our other programs, so you're showing on the Dating Refresh, this is a program that I'm just so proud of, in conjunction with the Group Coaching Intensive, which is a small group that I've developed for professional women. The Dating Refresh piggybacks off of that. So we are able to provide 3 months of online dating management. And one of the things, the reason why we do that is because one of the things that we've noticed, especially during the pandemic, I mean, the Dating Refresh program has been out since 2015, but especially during the pandemic, people are experiencing dating fatigue and online dating fatigue. And so what we try to do is we have a professional pretend to be you. We have one of my staff takes over your profile persona, your avatar, if you will, and she just sets you up on the date. So you can just enjoy yourself on the date, not have to worry about, did I swipe away my soulmate, or is this person weird? Like, we'll try to vet these things, and constant communication with our clients. The Dating Refresh program is specifically built for, you know, women, professional women. And it's one of the things I'm actually most proud of, because it has a high success rate. It's 90% success rate that, you know, will get you into a relationship in the next 6 months.
So, Maria, can I ask you something? What are your clients looking for? I mean, I don't want to say what are your clients looking for, but sometimes I find dating services really peculiar, because I agree with you on one side where, you know, in the old days, your mom would introduce you to someone, or your friend's friend. There was a lot of introductions. In today's world, we're really busy. People are global. They're traveling all the time. They don't have that much time. But also, that said, I feel like sometimes people are looking to finding a partner as just another thing to fit into the you know, it's like they've got the career going and now they need a partner and they're just looking for that thing. So they find someone to help them find somebody. You kind of get what
I get what you're saying. You know, dating, I think you just touched upon like something that's pretty big. So dating is a really new concept. You know, you just mentioned that people used to get set up through their parents or through a matchmaker or through friends. And that is what we call courtship. Yes. And what's great about courtship is that, you know, if you were to meet someone through your friends or through your parents or through a matchmaker, you can almost feel assured that the person you're being set up with already has a shared set of values and lifestyle. Well, maybe not their lifestyle, but definitely the shared set of values. So you don't have to have like certain foundational conversations that you'd have to have with a stranger. So dating is a very new concept. I would tell you probably started in like 1980 for most countries. Mm-hmm. And of course, like you know, sometimes people say, like, I will tell people, you know, don't get married unless you've hit the 2-year mark, because that will just really help you with, you know, the divorce rate plummets. And people will sometimes say to me, well, yeah, but my mom married my dad after they dated for 3 months. And I go, well, yeah, but they had shared friends. They had a shared lifestyle. They had shared values. Like, it's not the same as meeting a stranger in 2021. It's not the same with all the distractions. Now, to answer to the point about, you know, what my clients are looking for, anyone that's worked with me personally is looking to usually get married and have kids in the next 3 years if they're below 45. If they're over 45, it's usually to look either for, again, you know, to get remarried or to just be in a long-term and committed relationship. So luckily, I don't get to meet a lot of men who just want to like date around or hook up. That's not been the case. I don't know why someone would invest in a matchmaker to do that.
Yeah. That's not what I mean particularly, because I find, like, you know, from the experience my friends have had with matchmakers being female, some of them say that some of the men, you know, they do want to meet someone, but they have this idea of this person in their head that no one is ever good enough.
So I observe that with a lot of women over the age of 35. I don't know if this is the case with your friends, but sometimes after a certain age, not all women, but a lot of women, we can become our own worst enemies. So we tend to confuse what standards are versus what's being picky. Mm-hmm. And sometimes if we've waited that long for the right guy, a lot of women don't want to settle for anything less than this arbitrary list that's been created maybe when they were 22, because they'll say stuff like, well, if I'm going to date a guy who, you know, who's not even college educated, I could have dated him in my 20s. Well, I've waited this long. He has to be perfect now. The problem, of course, with that thinking is that, you know, the 1% woman or the 2% woman, like the top 2% earning of women or top 2% educated women, they look for things that the 1% and 2% man does not look for, right? Like sometimes women will say to me, like, he has to be this height. He has to be this educated. He has to make this income. Okay. None of those things tell you anything about that person's character, but okay. But if you ask those men, what are you looking for? Not once do they ever talk about how much income should she be making or what kind of career she should have. Sometimes I'll have men that say, you know, it would be great if she was intellectually curious or passionate about something. 100% I will get men saying to me, she has to be passionate about something. But it's never, she has to make this income. She has to be this height. It's the genders, and we're talking about like in a heterosexual world, the genders are very different in how they look for stuff.
It does seem like there's certain deal breakers that are really important to look at. Like if one person wants kids and another person doesn't, I mean, it seems like there's certain ones that would be definitely worth, you know, having that criteria around.
If someone doesn't want to have kids, I don't even entertain the conversation of someone who, like, when there's deal breakers, like proper deal breakers, we don't even entertain the idea of setting them up. I'm not going to convince someone to start having children.
No,
you know?
That's what I was thinking is that, so what are some of the common deal breakers? There's the having kids thing. Are there any others that are real stickers?
It's funny because I was going to ask that.
Oh,
that's a great question. So I do predict a new deal breaker showing up in a few weeks in the United States, and I'm sure it's going to be the same in Europe pretty soon as well. But the most common deal breaker is smoking or substance abuse. You know, I do get, maybe it's because we're based in Manhattan, but like A massive deal breaker is someone who voted a certain way in the 2016 or 2020 elections that in the United States. So we get that a lot. I think that's probably in every single person's profile at this point over the last 5 years, 6 years. So since 2015, it's just been one of, I was featured in the New York Times talking about it back in 2016. Like it was a very, I thought Hillary would win 2016, thinking like, oh, finally we'll be done with this like political deal breaker, but she didn't win and then just stayed on for, it's still there. We still deal with it every single day, 4 times a day, because I usually meet about 4 people a day to match. And now a new popular deal breaker, I think, is going to be vaccination. So, you know, we're going to, I'm seeing it already. I see it on online dating. I'm seeing it. I've already had clients say like, you know, I only want to meet someone who's vaccinated after the month of April. So it's like, okay, I hope the vaccine rollout is that quick in the United States for that to happen to you.
Yeah, there's not as many available. I mean, I think there's in many places they're still working with, I think even 75 and above, or maybe 65 and above.
Luckily, I think on Monday, so when the Biden administration came in, they did create the war thing where distribution can increase. So because more vaccines have been manufactured in the last 2 weeks, I believe starting on Monday, this coming Monday, there's going to be something like double or triple the amount of vaccines going out. So I think the vaccine rollout starting in mid-February and on is going to be significantly, increasing over the next few weeks. So I'm in like the general category to get a vaccine, and I live in New Jersey. So I think maybe I'll get vaccinated at least by the end of April. Both my parents are already vaccinated. So I'm hoping, you know, everyone else can, at least in my circle.
Yeah, exactly. And are people requiring tests before meeting up? I mean, is that a thing? I know that sometimes before having
like STD tests,
want COVID tests, like in order to meet you, let's both get a test, or you know, it's kind of like before having sex, let's both get, you know, AIDS tests or whatever. I mean, there are some requirements for that. Are you finding that COVID tests are becoming something that people are asking for?
Not yet. Oh, COVID tests. I'm sorry.
Right. To say, okay, I'm negative, so you're negative. Now we can meet in person.
That hasn't happened. So we tend to set up Zoom first dates and before the second date. So we don't, even though I've set up 4,000 first dates in person prior to 2020, all of our first dates last year have been mostly on Zoom, with the exception of a few who had already COVID, and they were like, let's just meet.
I'm curious about that. Can you feel chemistry the same way? Like, how different is it when they finally meet in person and that kind of thing?
I think the only way for Zoom dating to be successful is to meet physically within 7 days. So what happens for a lot of people that are falling in love right now online, what I'm about to describe is a very typical problem that's happening right now, especially in the cold because you're spending more time inside, is that people are falling in love with complete strangers. And because they're falling in love with complete strangers on the phone or over Zoom or over FaceTime, your expectations go so high that reality is never going to meet it. And this is why you have some men backing out last minute from dates. It's why you have, when you meet, or there's no connection. There's nothing wrong with either of you. It's just that you spoke too long before making sure that your pheromones and your overall chemistry aligns together. You know, with that vibe, you get that vibe check when you meet someone in person. So I do believe that you can definitely have a really great first Zoom date. But I would hope that you meet physically sometime over the next 2-3 days. Now, you should wear a mask, go for a walk. I think the best second date idea is to go for a walk. Why? And this has nothing to do with the pandemic, but like in general, if you were to go to a restaurant or a bar for a date, you should always sit side by side, not across from each other. So even perpendicular is okay, but I prefer side by side like this. Because when you're talking, you are able to allow your eyes to wander without being rude, right? Like as I'm speaking, I look at different corners, right? So the same thing that people do on dates. When you sit across from someone, you're kind of focused to talk to them in the eye, and that can be really hard. And when you're meeting a stranger, sometimes, you might blush if you're sharing something with yourself, and that can make you feel uncomfortable. It might make you clam up. It might give off the wrong vibe. Same for men. And I think that you know, going on a walking date for your second date can just really do wonders for building that initial chemistry.
I totally agree with you on that, because I sometimes think, you know, a lot of times in today's world, dates are, it's usually lunch or dinner. It's a meal of some sort. And I feel like we've kind of lost that of just meeting and walking and having a casual stroll. And you kind of get to know each other better, because there's no, you know, like it's effortless. It's totally, totally effortless.
Yeah.
And you just...
When it comes to my own, like our own clients that we set up, we try not to set up more than one physical date every 10 days, because we set up the first and second date. So if the first date went well, then we'll set up a second date. And yeah, I don't like to set up more than one physical date every 10 days. And maybe it's every 3, if they have children, so it's like separate 2 bubbles to think about because they have like a, you know, their ex-wife, then maybe it's like every 15 days where they'll get a physical date if it's going well.
I've got a question here I want to ask. What is the one thing, what is the, I mean, or maybe the 3 things that I'd say that men are looking for mostly, and then 3 things that women are looking for mostly in the matchmaking?
So if a guy hires me, it's always, I don't know if I have 3, but there's always 2 that's always the same. The first thing that men always say is that she should be passionate about something. And I think what men mean by that is that maybe you're passionate about your career. Maybe you're passionate about a hobby, but something that you have that's yours. I think sometimes, and you know, women feel the same too, right? Like it's just men are articulating this to me when I meet them. And I think what happens is like sometimes maybe men like to go golfing on the weekends with their buddies, or maybe they like to, maybe they have their own hobbies or whatever it is. They have a full life and they don't want to feel guilty for still participating in certain activities. Like it would be great if she also has something that she's passionate about, so that way when they come home, they can share these things together. Another thing that is really common from the men that I meet is like, what are the 3-year goals? So I think when someone goes to make the investment to hire a matchmaker, some of those goals include like, I'd really like to get married and have kids in the next 3 years. Like 3 years from now, I'd like to be a dad. And so he's looking for a woman who would like that same, to have those same goals. And of course, this is really relative on age or what, and you know, and whatnot, but that's usually a very popular reason for that we hear. Like in terms of like 3rd, maybe be someone being fit. I think people misunderstand this as someone being thin, but that's actually not the case. I think for some men who are active and have active lifestyles, I just think that they, you know, are you working on yourself? You know, I think that's usually what they mean by that,
and
right?
do you ever get men that just want a woman that stays at home? Because, you know, I do know that there's a lot of men that want that too. That they just
right. That's happened to me. I think like in the last 12 years, I think I've had like 3 or 4 men like that who are like, I have enough money for, you know, to have 5 households. She does not need to work. You know, if she wants to, she might, that, you know, that might not be for me. I'd really like to have, you know, 4 or 5 kids or 3 kids. And I'd really love it if she was a stay-at-home mom. So that's been a request. But you know what? I also have a big database filled with women who only want that as well. There's a lot of women who are not career oriented. They'd really love to be a stay-at-home mom. Is that me personally? No, I'm a better mom because I work. So, you know, it's all relative to the person. I don't get that as often in New York.
Yeah, New York's a very different city, but you know, because there's always, you know, because I used to get matchmakers call me or my friends in the past because they used to have a shortage of women. And
I've never had that. I've never ever had a shortage of women.
That's why I like your matchmaking, because your matchmaking seems like it's more genuine. It's 2 genuine sides.
I mostly only take men as clients because I don't want to be in a position where I cannot deliver everything that a woman that hires us wants. And that can be very difficult. But that's why we developed the Dating Refresh program, because our matchmaking program has a 90% success rate for men. Our coaching program, our Dating Refresh program has a 90% success rate for women. And that's why it was developed. It was to answer to, like, you know, helping the genders. So I thank you so much for saying what you said, though, about my company. I think that's like one thing that, you know, of the things that I'm proud of, I do appreciate how I think genuine and sincere we can be. I've always been let's be transparent as possible. And if I always say to people that meet us too, it's like, if I can't help you, I will refer you to the right matchmaker who can. Because I am, your first match has to be with your matchmaker, and I am not going to be the best match for all people.
Did you watch the Indian Matchmaker show on Netflix?
No, I don't watch dating shows.
You have to check it out.
I'm done.
It focuses specifically on the matchmaker. So, I mean, it does profile some of the cases that she's working on, but I thought that was kind of a cool.
I've heard about it from a ton of people. Half of my client, I would say like 40% of our clients are Indian. So, we have thousands of Indian singles in my database too. So,
do you think that's,
I already experienced Indian matchmaking. I don't need to watch it. I watch like true crime when I'm done from here, or like The Office reruns. I can't.
Well, she'll consult, an astrologist every once in a while and stuff. Do you have any modalities that are?
I don't do that. I think the reason why we're so popular among Indian singles as a matchmaking service is because I don't do what a typical Indian matchmaker would do. And there's no disrespect. I love a lot of Indian matchmakers. In fact, I went to India 2 years ago for a conference on Indian matchmaking that I was speaking at. And it's a very interesting culture, and like what they do, that's not what we do. I don't consult astrologers, or although I do have one that I could call, I don't do that. I try to match, fundamentally based on values and lifestyle and communication style.
I think it's big in the Indian community because even till today, Indians have arranged marriages between families, and they do things the old way. And a lot of Indians are kind of used to that. It's kind of the traditional way. And I guess, sometimes when you change culture, even though you're Indian American or stuff, your parents sometimes still want you to meet the good girl.
Yeah, I get bio data, that's what it's called, in my inbox every single day. I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, I experience it. 40% of my clients are Indian, so I totally understand, the background behind that culture and subculture of how they do it. And it's very interesting how they arrange marriages too. I am not one to snuff on this. Like, they base matchmaking so much on community, subcaste, caste, religion, and the matching of values between families. Like if the family's values don't match, the kids don't even meet. So it's a very interesting form of matchmaking that I really appreciate. I really respect, and it's very different than what we do. I don't meet people's parents or siblings. I do remember seeing this tree in India that was really dressed up beautifully, and I remember asking, like, why is that tree so beautiful? Like, it looked like a wedding pom-pom. And my guide there said, oh, that's a wedding tree. And I go, okay, explain. And he goes, well, some people's astrology says that their first spouse is going to die. So what you do is you get married to the tree, divorce the tree, I guess, and then you get remarried to your spouse. Yeah, and I was just like, okay. that was pretty funny. So
that is so funny. So, one thing we always talk about as women is, I live in LA, and there's so many single women in LA. I mean, I seem to know single women all over the world, but I guess it's the same for men. And, I always have this analogy where I go, everybody's saying they can't meet somebody, but everybody's looking for somebody. And because everybody's saying, I can't find a guy, I can't find a girl, whatever. But then if you can't find each other and you're both looking for each other, how come it's just not happening? And people need matchmakers more and more these days. And I think that is partly because life has just got so much busier.
Yeah, that's actually the real answer. And also your networks tend to become a lot more narrower as you get older. It's really hard to make friends. So like friends of the opposite gender as you get older. Some of your, let's say you're a gentleman, some of your guy friends, they'll get married, and those wives, they might want to set you up, but their friends might also be married. So your network starts to get narrow and narrow, and narrower and narrower. And, but there's also, I think we're also avoiding that there are people out there who love the idea of outsourcing this part of their life. They think to themselves, well, I've made really bad choices in the past. Let me just hire a professional. Just like someone could say, I'm really bad at boiling an egg. Let me get a chef. I'm really bad at dusting my living room. Let me get a maid. I'm really bad at my love life. Let me hire a matchmaker. So if you're used to outsourcing things, then this is definitely like, that's a very popular reason for someone to hire a matchmaker. It's not just about, I can't meet anyone. It's no, I have clients who have renewed with me. Like, even if they didn't get a relationship or they broke up or they divorced, they come back because they have gotten addicted to the concept of someone else setting them up. They don't see themselves ever going online. And of course, I have clients who are celebrities, A-list celebrities, B-list celebrities, CEOs, and how are they supposed to date? Who are they going to date? If it's on Forbes that, they make this much money a year, it's really hard to trust people when they go out. And hiring a matchmaker who does blind introductions or might have, this one client I had who was very A-list. I had to have women sign NDAs before they went on dates because they'd make a lot of money going to, Us Weekly and saying, oh, I want to date with this guy, and think about, some CEOs, like I've had some really famous CEOs where their shareholders do not want them to be single. They want them to be in relationships. So they'll also invest in a matchmaker to do the dating where it's like, but they're not going to swipe, if you have 30,000 employees, you're not online dating.
Yeah, but so, okay, you are acting as the person that's kind of vetting.
Right.
But there's no guarantee still.
You're right. There's no guarantee. You could go to a bar and meet people that there's no guarantee you'll end up with any of those people. You can go to a wedding and meet your friends. There's never a guarantee in dating. But are you extending your network in a different way through a matchmaker's network? Yeah. And there's more odds to that than not doing anything, continuing doing what you're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm not for everyone. Matchmaking is not for everyone. It's for certain people. I've never said I'm for everyone.
It definitely makes a statement that you're committed and that you're looking for something serious. I think there's a lot of people who will get online and they're taking a very casual approach or like a let's just see what happens kind of approach. And it sounds like when people sign up to work with you that they're really serious about making a commitment. They have, you're kind of coaching them through these 3-year goals and you have tips and things to kind of help them show up as their best self. And so that shows that they're also, putting the effort into showing up that way and receiving that feedback. So if you're single and you're looking for someone who is serious and wants a commitment, then working with a matchmaker can also show that, the people on the other side are serious too, and kind of cut out some of the challenges that you have on online dating and things like that.
Yeah, I think what works for matchmaking, it's like, think about if you met through a friend, so many things you don't really have to ask. It's all vetted out for you. And that's what I do. For every person my client meets, I've probably met 20 or 30 people to vet out who I think might be the best chance at getting them in a relationship. And it's why most of our clients enter relationships with their 4th or 5th match, a couple months into a contract, because it's like, every time they go on a date, we calibrate our search. I get feedback after their date. I get feedback from their match after their date. And then I can assess like, well, who should the next match be? What should we concentrate on? What should we focus on? It's definitely an interesting, I didn't think I was going to become a matchmaker. I always tell people I thought I was going to go into the foreign service. I have a master's in global affairs. Like everything was pointing to some other direction, but I think I'm really no nonsense, and people really trusted that factor about me. And if I'm the person to hire, then, or to just even be in the database to be considered, the lines are open.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think there's so many challenges these days with online dating, like with catfishing and all of this stuff that. And I've also thought about, what you said, even when you're not an A-list celebrity or a CEO, you still want a certain amount of privacy in a lot of cases about, or sensitivities that putting yourself out there and you're on the app. May cause some, just considerations for people to not want to have to do that, not want to put themselves out there in that public of a forum.
I've had a few like widowers in the past, unfortunately, but that is the case. And it makes perfect sense that they hired us, because if you're, if you are the sole parent at home, you have no help. how are you supposed to date? Like, you know, it's like, are you really going to get are you really going to look, there's a lot of widowers out there. So I'm not, you know, but I think sometimes people really delay dating when they have young children because they think, especially when they're online dating, because they think, okay, now I have to pay for a sitter, make sure my kids aren't sick, make sure they can do this, and then go out in case this date goes well. Like, there's a lot that you're gambling with. And during COVID, I don't even know how many single parents who have full custody of their kids are dating. Like, I was recently being interviewed by a television station, and they said something like, who has it the hardest? And I said, there's only one subset of people that have it the hardest right now, and that is single parents who have 100% custody. They have it the hardest because they can't date. And I feel really bad. I feel horrible that, you know, it's something that, you know, really upsets me, because I feel like, if anything, single parents really need companionship, and they're stuck in a global pandemic that doesn't allow them to even just take a break from their kids, let alone even meet someone new.
It's absolutely true. I have a couple friends going through that too. And it is very hard. And especially if the person they're dating on the other side has kids as well at home, if there's no really place that they can go to hang out together. I mean, you can go to, maybe if outdoor dining is open, you can do that, or taking the walks we talked about. But beyond that, it's hard to really get familiar. And also the other thing that's been interesting with some of my friends have reported is that accepting people into your home is something that you have to kind of embrace earlier with the pandemic than you normally would. And so you might be, you know, making a dinner for someone or having them over at a time when maybe it almost feels too soon. And normally you'd be out in the world dating or doing activities, and there's not much else to do. So you have them over, and then it can be a little bit
you're accelerating a relationship that, you know, you might not necessarily you know, would be in normal times. Yeah, that's definitely happening.
You would have them over.
Mm-hmm. So as a matchmaker, what advice would you have for anyone watching this that is thinking, you know, probably they're looking for a matchmaker, but they're trying to find someone at the same time, and maybe they can't afford a matchmaker, but what general advice would you have if someone really wants to meet someone and that, you know?
So I have a call to action. It's actually not directed to single people. It's directed to people that are in relationships. We need to help our friends and family that is currently single and unable to meet new people. And in normal times, maybe they'd go to your wedding. Maybe they'd go to your barbecue. Maybe they'd go to some event where they got to meet your friends, but they don't have that opportunity right now. So it's our responsibility. We must this is a call to action to all people in relationships. You need to find 2 friends. I want you to find 2 single friends and set them up each on 2 dates over the next 3 months. We all have to do it. We all have to do it. We all have to pick 2 friends and do that. And if you are single, what you can do is tell them, Matchmaker Maria said, you have to help me go on a date 2 times in the next 3 months. That's it. I just need you to set me up 2 times.
I'm going to send them this video. I'm going to be like, watch this.
And if you are single, like, you know, one of the ways I met my husband is I thought about the kind of person I wanted to be with. Like, I thought about the kind of person I'd like to have kids with, and I wrote it down. And I thought to myself, which of my friends is dating someone like this? And there were 2 of them. So I went to both of their boyfriends and I said, listen, next time you go out with your friends, I want you to invite me. I didn't ask them, hey, set me up. I said, next time you go out with your friends, I need you to invite me. And one of them, you know, he was in Boston. One of them, he said to me, hey, on Friday, it was a Wednesday. On Friday, I'm going out for drinks with 9 of my buddies. You said for me to call you next time I go out. I'm going out on Friday. I got myself on a train and I went to Boston. This is a guy that had all of the qualities I'm looking for. And thank God he's married to one of my best friends. Guess what? 9 of his friends, almost all of them were just like him in terms of values and communication style. And one of those men would end up becoming my husband.
Wow.
So I'm asking you to, like, not only go out to your friends and say, no, you have to set me up, but say, like, next time you have a Zoom party, or can you throw a PowerPoint Zoom party? It's like a fun party, look it up. Or, you know, throw a Pictionary Zoom party, invite me and some of your guy friends. Like, please introduce me to 2 people. I just want a Zoom date. Can you just do that for me? 2 people. We all have to adopt 2 single people, and single people need to tell their friends who are in relationships, you have to set me up, because I would normally go to an event you're throwing and meet someone that's not happening. So you owe me right now.
I definitely think proximity is something that we used to be able to count on a lot for meeting people, you know, through work or through school or through, you know, the gym. And without that proximity, you can't feel that chemistry, and it does require a little bit extra effort. So I appreciate those ideas. That's a really, really fantastic idea. And it also puts an exclamation point on the idea that aligning based on values is a really great thing to focus on first.
And of course, like, don't you want to be the one that gives the toast at their wedding? Like, do it. It'll be a lot of fun. It's very rewarding. I promise you.
You're responsible for the match. It feels good.
Wait till they have kids. Oh my God. It's like an honor.
Yeah, that's really sweet.
And I think a lot of it also has to do with accountability. You know, like, I feel like, you know, like when people come to you, they're accountable.
Yeah.
You know?
If you meet someone through a matchmaker or through a friend, there is incredibly low chances of ghosting, of breadcrumbing, of whatever dating lingo you want to put in this. It's because you're accountable to someone else. So be it a friend or a professional. So yeah, I definitely, this is a tip that I would recommend for 2021.
Exactly. Because I also find even before Corona, a lot of times some people just, you know, they go on a date and they're like, oh, I've got a lot of work stuff. And then they let that go. They're not so, you know, and they don't really, they don't hold themselves accountable. So that's why I liked exactly what you did. You were like, I need to find someone, my partner, my life partner. And, you know, you did it. You got on a train, you went to Boston, you know, you like just.
I mean, I didn't know the guy I was meant to be with was going to be in that room, and maybe I would have met him eventually because he was best friends with my, with my close friend's husband.
Well, you took action.
But you know, it was very intentional at that time.
Yes, it was very intentional. And another thing I wanted to ask you about is what about, because also what I find these days is, you know, some of my friends, when they're dating someone, then we have other friends and other friends start telling them things like, oh, I don't think he's this. I don't think he's good enough for you. He's that. He's that. And they let their friends get in the way of them making, I mean, I think friends should play a part, but it's one thing I've decided in my life that if I meet the right person,
are you happy? Like, that's
exactly.
it. You know, I'm always scared of getting friends involved because sometimes people will date. Like, think about when your mom or dad were not happy with someone that you dated and then you just dated them harder. It's the same thing. And so, you know, if you see this with a friend or a sibling that's dating someone that's wrong for them, if you just give them the space, they'll figure it on their own. But all you have to ask is like, are you happy? Because if they're happy, then it's none of your fucking business. Excuse my language.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree.
Yeah, I agree too. And I wonder about red flags when you're out on a date. Are there any red flags to look out for that you can think of off the top of your head?
Yes. So there's a few things that men can say on a first date, and I guess women too. But I think men tend to hide their red flags really well. So if they start saying stuff about the future, like, you know, instead of talking about like what they like to do for the weekend, what do they like to do on a normal weekend, they say stuff like, well, let's go away this weekend. Or, you know, next month I want to go to Aruba. Do you want to come with me? Like, that's a red flag. That is someone who is probably a narcissist who's currently grooming you with a love bomb to get you into a vulnerable state where then they can emotionally and maybe physically abuse you. So that is a massive red flag. Another red flag, if someone says to you that I'm friends with all my ex-girlfriends. No, you are still involved with your ex-girlfriend's lives probably because you don't want them deep down to be happy without you. And that is a form of gaslighting in my opinion. So I feel like if a man says to you that he's friends with all of his exes, I think that's kind of weird. And I also think if a guy says to you that he doesn't have a lot of friends, I think as women, as heterosexual women, we should really look for, I mean, not just heterosexual women, like all women and men should look for people that are really strong communicators. And the only way to find a strong communicator is to be with someone who constantly makes the effort to develop their social aptitude. So, you know, if a guy has 1 or 2 friends that they check in with regularly, that really helps. They have someone else to talk to, and they're developing their communication. And that translates to a healthy relationship for you. If someone does not have those relationships, it can be really tough. And sometimes that's also a sign of narcissism.
It's funny that you said that, because a lot of these things, I wouldn't have picked them up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have picked them up.
I think those are pretty big first date flags, you know?
Yeah. Because most of my friends will go, oh my God, he invited me away for the weekend. Oh, how fabulous.
Yeah. That's such a red flag.
That's really interesting. Yeah. And I've heard that sometimes men will just project into the future, and women will sometimes think, oh, well, it's a plan. Like, oh, we should go to Hawaii, you know, for Thanksgiving, whatever. And then they think, oh, it's a plan. And then the man's really just kind of trying that on for size. They're not really thinking of it in terms of actually activating on it. And so you can be disappointed and wonder now, oh, well, he didn't actually end up inviting me for Hawaii. So maybe that means that he's not that into me anymore. You know, when he was,
one thing, if you're currently in a texting relationship with someone, and I know a lot of people are that are listening and watching, you should ask yourself, does this person talking to me because he's genuinely interested in what I have to say? Does he actually want to meet me sometime in the next 48 hours? Or is he talking to me because he likes the way it feels? Am I stroking his ego throughout this? You know, if a man ever says to you, oh, you're too good for me, or, you know, I can't believe a woman like you would even talk to me, that is a massive red flag. That is a person who's trying to get you down to their level so that you can make them feel good, because they don't feel good about themselves. Instead, he could say stuff like, wow, I admire you so much. You are incredible. Not, you know, you're too good for me. That's an awful thing to say to someone. And what happens when you go down to their level and you say stuff like, what are you talking about? Your business is doing so well. Or what are you talking about? I love that you did this and this. Again, you're just going down to their level. You're giving them compliments because to make them feel good. What happens is eventually the honeymoon phase ends, and now you're going to feel resentment. You're going to feel a lot of different emotions because you're not at your 100%. You've stooped down to his level to make him feel good, to make his ego feel good, when really there has to be a balance. He has to, you know, we have to learn to date people who admire us as much as we admire them.
Yeah, that's a really important thing. That's really, really true. Because I feel like a lot of times people go into relationships or are looking for someone. So sometimes they're so desperate,
right,
that when they meet someone, they become a doormat and they let that person walk all over them, or vice versa.
It's interesting to see from a conversation where the focus is. Is it always on him and how is his day and what he has going on? Or is he asking, you know, deeper questions of you and showing not just good morning, but like, you know, what's happening in your life, or more about who you are.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very, very interesting. You know, now we know a lot more about dating and all.
I love the red flags. I love the Mythbusters, and I love your predictions. So thanks for sharing all of them.
Yeah,
thank you
so much. I'm enlightened, because I would never have thought about the red flags. You know, I just thought, oh, what an asshole. I mean,
yeah. Well, you feel that in your gut that he was an asshole, one way or the other, right? Well,
yeah.
Those are some really good tips, and I think that I think everybody. I mean, I would love more. Do you have anything to offer as far as like follow up for anybody's interested? Should they just go to your website? Is there anything else we can offer them?
So they can go to, I am really funny on social media. So you can always follow me on Instagram at Matchmaker Maria, or TikTok, Real Matchmaker Maria, or on Clubhouse, Matchmaker Maria. I host office hours every Wednesday at 10
you're
p.m.
on Clubhouse as well. I'm going to join your room.
I'm going to try that.
Great. I have office hours tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern time. So I go over all of the Q&As that I take on Wednesdays on my Instagram, which is Wednesdays is a big day for me. So, and of course, you know, if you go on my Instagram, you'll see a link to all the stuff that I work on. So, you know, I always give different speeches that I invite people to, or, you know, joining our next Agape Intensive, group coaching intensive, which happens once a month in a group environment. It's really great. And there's a link for that there as well.
Wow.
That'll be so fun to follow you on social media and get more hot tips. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for coming on the show. You know, I was so excited, you know, that you were coming, because I just wanted to talk about relationships and actually talking to a matchmaker for once.
I love it. Thank you so much. Your enthusiasm is so infectious, and I really appreciate being on Beauty and the Beat.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
So great having you. Thank you so much, Maria.
No problem. Have a good one.